when we think about workflow as a software concept, I know there are sort of typical business processes that people think of being software driven, right? Expense report management, accounts payables, billing. Like there are sort of, if you went to an enterprise workflow conference, there's like 6 or 7 core use cases that most people would identify with and would probably say, oh, I get that. Like our core competency of a company is not to be the world's best, user of expense management, and that's why we're an amazing company. It's to build great products and services for our customers. But one of the things that I think is also really changing is those are starting to be put into kind of workflow models as well. And we sometimes read about them as sort of software development processes and things like that. But could you talk a little bit about, how you see from your seat sort of concepts around workflow and the software development process and the tools people use? Like, how is that becoming a set of best practices? And then how do we think about, our product fitting into that mix and sort of customer feedback as part of that workflow?
I think you have to look at how people work today and why they do that. What I'm very interested in is when I look across our organization is what is it that people really want to do and that delivers value versus where have we institutionalized weird workarounds for shortcomings in tools or in anything else we had before, or where do people do things because they've been told to do them. We want to support the former, and formalize that a little, institutionalize best practices around the things that people actually want to do, and make sure, again, that we have a bit of consistency across this. And I would like to see, and ideally, what these tools do is they support the individual so that people want to use them. It's not a big burden, but then almost as a side effect, they create this visibility for others to also participate in what's going on. And I think our typical workflow tools, like I think I'm on my 5th company now using Jira and Confluence for knowledge management, they're great. They don't put a lot of burden on the individual using them, but they do create a lot of visibility for others. So they really foster collaboration, and they foster asynchronous collaboration because I don't need to be there here and now. I can look when I have time. And then handled well, again, consistency I think is a key word in all of this. If we do things consistently, you create visibility across the whole organization. So if we want to know how we're doing with a certain initiative, something we know is important to our customers, maybe something we promised them, we can easily get that information without having to invite 20 people to a meeting and check what the status is. We can do that in a non-intrusive way. So I think the trick really is to find these things that aren't too confining for the individuals in the organization, but that still provide this organizational visibility. And again, I think our own product is fantastic for that, where one person may go out to get feedback, but others can discover this feedback. We can not only we can actively share the feedback, of course, and we make clips and highlight reels, and we put them in Confluence, and we put them in Jira, and we illustrate a lot of the conversations we have with them. But they also start forming a repository where people can go in and search for things that they may want to know about. So this is, I think, an ideal situation where individuals use the software to get their job done. Teams function better because they work together, enabled by software. And then whole organizations function better because you get this organizational visibility, you get a lot of reuse of knowledge. So I think it's amazing to see, and I don't know if anybody's ever tried to measure this, but the productivity of a software development organization today compared to when we had to go knock on people's shoulders and invite them to a cup of coffee to get anything done. It's pretty amazing how far we've come.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think your point on visibility is well made. We hear from a lot of folks in the sort of design and research space, how do I have visibility into what's going on around the organization? How do I make sure that my team has the most impact on what things we're building for customers? And part of that's just having a vehicle to see what's going on. Like if you have a software development process that includes, ideation and coming up with new ideas, and design for vetting out what solutions are the right answer, and then, building and quality testing. I think the feedback we hear from a lot of people in the UX research and in the design space is, if I had more visibility into all the solutions we're ideating out and the designs that we're thinking about, my team can help support those efforts more effectively. And conversely, we hear from folks that, want that kind of work to be done, being able to say, boy, if I had some visibility into how fast I can get that, what that could look like, how to share that further downstream, it's really powerful. I know, Kai, you and your team have been doing a lot of even demoing of user testing, like through the point of view of Jira. It's sort of like, oh, here's all the places we get feedback, and here's where the status of all that feedback is. I think it's really an interesting way to sort of encapsulate, to your point, some of the best practices that we see, but also that our customers show us in a process that is really beneficial to all our customers when it sort of gets encapsulated that way.
Yeah, I completely agree. And even if it's a simple set of states that you have in Jira that the task goes through, it's so helpful because other people can come in and see what's going on. And you also, as the person living through this, have such an efficient way of communicating it without taking a lot of your own time for that. In all of this, though, we talk about workflows and worst case, we talk about automation. It reminds me a little of like the early 90s, maybe, where we were trying to do all of this. But in all of this, I think we don't want to lose the human element. And I think one thing that it does, if we have our processes in good order, it frees up time for just having conversations. I think one of my highlights of my weeks always is when I talk to our new hires, both in one-on-one conversations without any fixed agendas, just getting to know people and understand what they care about at work, maybe what they care about outside of work if they care talking about that. And we do our new hire meet and greets where we just chat and put people in front of each other, put them in front of people who've been here for a long time. I think things like that also is important. We shouldn't forget that. We talk about automation, this, and workflows and processes. If we can use the efficiency we gain through that and then add back in this human element, I think we really have won.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And even adding the human element back into the process and workflow, right? If you kind of look at the other side of the coin, not just getting to know your colleagues better and working with them more efficiently in a more human way, if you will, you can do the same with your customers. If you're efficient and building product and experiences with defined workflows that are, creating efficiency for you and your team, that then allows for space for you to really connect with your customers. I always find it fascinating when you actually look at, and I talk to many companies where it's like this internal team is focused on this workflow to get something out the door. And many times the customer is an afterthought. Like many times the customer is actually not integrated into that workflow. And I think that that's actually, when I think about the future for us and the future for customer feedback within an organization, that is really exciting. Because I think there's such an opportunity for the customer to be part of the workflow. Like, why shouldn't they be?
Absolutely. And I think people are far too focused on efficiency versus being effective and delivering the right solution for the customer, the thing the customer really wants. And compared to how much we waste by building the wrong product or just getting a few things wrong and having to redo things, whatever we lose in efficiency along the way is negligible. The big failures I've had in my career have been when we built the wrong thing. Like either we discovered when we were about to ship it that people couldn't use it, or even worse, after we shipped it, we figured out people didn't need it or usually it's they can't figure out how to use it, and we have to go back and rework, and you lose time and you lose motivation, and the customers lose patience, and that's the true waste. And that's where I think being in touch with the customer, building empathy for them, understanding how they think about things, how they see things, that's what really matters.
Yeah, it's a tough comeback if you launch a product and it's not successful to then go to the management team and go, yeah, but we built it really quickly. Doesn't really pay off like you'd expect it to. So I think that's very insightful.